Hello there, welcome back to the channel, and I'm here to keep talking with you guys about my C2 study plan. And today is a very special day because it's the first day of it. So let's talk a bit about language learn and those type of thing, right? Today is the first day of my plan. You know, I'm studying English, or at least I will study English to reach the C2 level, and I am for it. I know that it's hard to get there, though I am probably around C1 right now. So I'm not so far off C2, I would say, but it's not an easy task though. Today was the first day of my 6 month routine that I want to follow. Actually, today was not this example day. I kinda didn't started watch and listen properly because I had so many things to do in my day today, and that makes the thing far more difficult. But I want to talk today about the topic, which are over listening and listen in general, I would say. So it's something that I'm starting doing, and that has been very very enjoyable. I would say that was enjoyable and very powerful to my English in general, because I'm reaching some level of proficiency that I thought not be possible, or at least that I thought very difficult to reach. I'm starting to feel that I'm improving in English, and to feel that I just change my mindset, I would say. I do not want to sound cliche here, but changing my mindset helped me a lot. Because, no, like, I talked about immersion here in the channel and why it's so important. In the same way that immersion is so important, over listening sometimes and listen to content is important too. If you are in the early stage of language learning process, you you would notice that when you are learning this, when you are starting to learn the language, you can understand very well the things that you listen to it or that you read to it, because you are not used to it. You are not used to the language at all. So if you are not used to it, how you are supposed to do this? How are you aiming to do this type of thing? And I'm not saying that aiming for that is wrong. I'm not saying that desiring to learn the language is a wrong thing, but I'm saying if you are starting to learn now, it's normal that you will probably don't have the knowledge and the skills that are required to learn and to understand what someone is talking in a video or in a book, for example. As I said with you guys, in this plan right here, I want to make first some activity study, and second, a true immersive space. I want to transform my room and my life in English, so this will become far more easier to reach this too. Reach the C2 level will become doable, maybe, or at least more likely to happen if I surround myself with English. You know, all polyglots right there in the YouTube say you should learn language through immersion, and you should try to really immerse yourself in the language. And they say that, and it's quite true. When you immerse yourself in the language, you have the skill, and you will develop this skill even more to understand more about the language and to be more proficient in general. But it's not easy to immerse yourself in a proper way. It demands a lot of things, and it's not like we always have time. We don't, right? The best case scenario is that when you have all the opportunities to immerse yourself in the language and start in doing so. For the early stage of the language learning process, I would say that, at least for myself, it's very hard to stick to it and to follow all the things. But when you are in a more advanced level, let's say B1 or even A2, when you have passed to this start, you will become more able to understand the language and even more to immerse yourself in the language because you already understand it. I can watch some videos on YouTube, and watching them is not like a burden that I have to hold it. It's not like a thing that I should do, or at least that I'm obligating myself to do. No, it's not like that. It's like I'm watching the content itself. I'm not worried by the language, but I'm worried by the content. And what really matters when I'm watching a video on YouTube right now is the content, at least in some superficial way, because when you reach some level, you do not need to watch the content without understanding it properly. You start to understand more than if you do not study. But what I want to say with all of this, and I'm not expressing myself very well, is that you should sometimes try to do over listening and try to do listen first, but over listening. What is listen and over listen by the way that I define? So listen is when you try deliberate yourself to properly pay attention in the language and the sounds that the language are doing. When you watch someone talking in that language and you pay attention, at least in some degree, if you are wishing the dishes and you are listening to a podcast, let's say, you are able to understand it in some degree. Listen is that it's when you just watch or listen properly, just listen or listen and watch a content, and you are paying attention in that language, in your target language. Listen, that is that. But I'm proposing here an over listening. It's what I'm doing now. You see, the listen is when you stay some time consuming the language, and when you are just there watching a content, let's say for an hour or 2 hours, or you are just consuming the content, you start and you stop. It is that listen. In some sense, that is listen. Yeah, but I'm proposing that you start to listen and do not stop, or at least try to fill your life with listen in English or your target language. And if you are not listen, try to do another thing in English. For example, reading or writing, or at least think in English. You see, I share with you the feeling and the fear of do not have enough time to learn a language. And I'm seeing through my life that I will have a lot of problems probably in this 6 months to stick to it, my project, and keep learning English though sometimes I will just be overwhelmed by the things that I need to do in that day, and I will not be able to study English a lot and properly. But even with even when you are learning things in Portuguese, let's say it's my language or your native language, when you are doing things in your native language that could not possibly happen, uh, be doing in English. When you are there and you just can't doing that thing in English, I think that you should try to do is try to create an inner monologue in English. Create this inner monologue will help you to keep and listen to some content, or at least keep and thinking in English when you are not properly consuming content in English. When we are learning English through listening, and by that over listen to, when we are doing that, we are listen to something, and our brain are trying to recognize the patterns of that speech. When you are like a beginner in the language that you are learning, you will normally translate to your native language, or you will just notice tiny little details of the language that you are learning. Let's say, for example, that I'm learning French, and indeed I was learning French. So I'm learning French, let's say, and I listen some word there, and by listening this word and paying attention to it, I could first know the translation to Portuguese and translate, or know the meaning of it in Portuguese. Because if I'm in the really early stages, I will not to know some synonyms, for example, in that language, or know the explanation to that word in that language. If I say, let's say, chien, for example, that is the French word for dogs. If I took this word and I do not know nothing about it, I need to do some correlation with another thing that I know to understand that word. Normally is with your native language, or with the language that you are using to learn your target language. But when you reach some degree, you start to think in the language that you are trying to masterize and to properly know. I start to think in English if I learn English. I start to think in French if I learn French. In English, for example, your brain changes to try to recognize patterns in a such fog way and start to understand whole words, phrases, even more complex structures of the language. And you start to not paying close attention to the language, but instead paying attention to the content. You are not using the language by itself and trying to recognize the patterns there in a very foggy way. You are trying to understand what the guy who's talking is trying to mean. If I'm listening to someone, I will not try to understand what that means. I will try to understand what he wants to say with that. He or she. He, uh, what they want to say with that. And is that way. So first you try to understand what it means, and after you try to understand what he or she means. And by doing over listening, you are just thinking in English. Congrats! If you're trying to do this, you are trying to think in English. So when you are not able to properly listen to something, you can try to do an inner monologue. It's something that you could try to do. It's that I want to say. But besides that, I want to recommend you guys two really good programs that I'm using. The first one is the YouTube right here. Indeed, it is pretty obvious that the YouTube is a very good tool for listening and for watching content in English or in any other language. I'm using YouTube a lot. I'm trying to make more diverse my content, because the content that I consume is very niche. Normally, it's just about the language learn type of thing, and I'm not able to learn another things also. So I'm trying to change a bit to watch some things that I not use it to it, and I'm focused on the British accent because I think that is a very beautiful accent, and I'm thinking that as it's the original one and is the more polite in my opinion, I should go for it. I'm trying to listen to English 24/7. Is that what over listen means in my definition, at least? So try to surround yourself in English in such a way that every time that you look, you say English. That's what truly immersion is. We could talk more about this later, but getting back into listen, in this over listen, the tools that are helping myself with is YouTube in the first place, or in the second, I don't know. But I would say that in the first place comes YouTube, which is very useful indeed to learn language or to do anything else on internet that involves videos and audios. And besides that, I'm using also another application, another app, should I say, that is the BBC app. So, bro, it's amazing, really. I think that this is the best thing that I could listen to it, because I'm very it's been very helpful. I put there some episode of some series in the radio, and I just listen to it when I'm doing another thing. But this video was a bit messy. I could not explain very well what I want to mean, but basically try to do an over listen is try to immerse yourself in the listen in your target language, in this case English. So try to do the over immersion is to properly try to surround yourself with 24/7 English, and all the time listen to it, listen to it, listen to it, and keep on doing that. It's my goal. I want to reach C2, and by that I need to do over listen in some sense. The over listen is helping me with my accent. My accent is getting very very precise, should I say. I would say at least that it's getting better a bit. I think that I'm becoming more comprehensible in some sense, and that I'm in the same way I'm starting to comprehend even more because I'm getting used to it. Some content that I watched before and I could not understand that I'm watching and I'm understanding because I'm trying to do this immersion and this over listen. So that's why immersion in this case more specifically the over listen and the listen all the time or try to really exposure yourself to the listen is very important. Sometimes we can do it, but when we can, we should try it for language learn, become more efficient. But there is some detail, should I say, that involves when you should do over listen. Sometimes over listen becomes boring and overwhelming and takes your time, etc. There is other cons too, but we shall talk more about this in another video, maybe. So see you guys soon, probably. I always say, I always like to say that I don't know if I will see you guys soon, but if I do, we will stay back here. See you guys.